Have you ever looked at someone you call a friend and quietly wondered, do they really care about me, or are they just pretending? Most people hesitate to ask this question, not because they can't handle the truth, but because they fear what the truth might take away. But here's the surprising part. Psychology says that your doubts often appear long before the truth reveals itself. Your mind notices patterns your heart tries to overlook. And that silent, uneasy feeling you carry, it's not insecurity, it's awareness trying to wake you up. Think for a moment about your life. Think about the people around you. We all walk around with masks, some to protect ourselves, and some to hide intentions we don't want others to see. Fake friends don't show up with warning signs. They show up with smiles, with laughter, with words that sound supportive but lack the soul of real loyalty. And because you're a good person, you try to give them the benefit of the doubt. You try to see the best in them. You try to believe their actions come from a good place, even when something inside you begins to whisper otherwise. Psychology teaches something powerful. People reveal who they are, not through their words, but through the small behaviors they think you're too distracted to notice. And those behaviors, the tiny ones, the ones we often ignore, carry the truth. Every lie has a pattern. Every fake friend has a signature. And once you learn to recognize it, you will never be fooled the same way again. Before we go deeper, I want you to understand one thing. Recognizing fake friends is not about becoming cold. It's not about pushing people away. It's about protecting your emotional health and stepping into the strength you are meant to live with. It's about refusing to let your kindness become someone else's playground. Because you deserve peace. You deserve respect. You deserve people who clap when you rise, not people who compete with you in silence. But here's the reality. Most people fail to see the truth because they approach friendship from the heart, not from observation. You ignore inconsistencies because you feel loyal. You explain away disrespect because you're understanding. You tolerate emotional distance because you're patient. And little by little, you shrink your needs to make room for their excuses. That's how fake friendships survive. Not because you don't see the truth, but because you convince yourself not to. Psychology calls this cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable tension between what you feel and what you know. You feel something is wrong, but you don't want to accept it. You sense jealousy, but you don't want to believe it. You notice the distance, but you keep telling yourself they're just busy. The problem isn't that you're blind. The problem is that you're loyal, but loyalty without boundaries creates emotional exhaustion, and emotional exhaustion makes you vulnerable to people who only take, never give. You deserve more than that. You deserve relationships that nurture your confidence, not slowly drain it. Ask yourself, how many times have you silenced your feelings to protect someone else? How many times have you given energy to someone who gave you confusion in return? How many times have you supported someone who didn't even notice when you were breaking inside? These questions might sting, but they open the door to something deeply important, self-awareness, and self-awareness is the beginning of emotional freedom. When you understand the psychology behind human behavior, you stop reacting with your heart and start responding with wisdom. You stop letting people walk in and out of your life like it's a revolving door. You stop mistaking familiarity for loyalty. And for the first time, you begin to see people clearly, not for who you wish they were, but for who they truly are. By the end of this video, you'll be able to recognize 2 psychological behaviors that fake friends can't hide, even if they try. These behaviors expose their intentions every single time. And once you understand them, you'll never again waste your kindness on someone who treats your presence like an option. But here's the reward for staying until the end. You won't just learn how to identify fake friends. You will learn how to protect your spirit, how to reclaim your energy, how to choose people who genuinely want to grow with you, and most importantly, how to walk away from anyone who doesn't respect the love, loyalty, and goodness you bring into this world. Because the moment you learn to recognize these signs, your life changes, your circle changes, your peace returns. So stay with me. You're about to gain clarity that many people spend years searching for and often never find. When you start questioning the intentions of the people around you, something powerful begins to happen inside you. You begin to wake up. You begin to see that the relationships you allow into your life shape your clarity, your confidence, and even your future. The previous realization that your intuition notices things long before your mind accepts them naturally leads to a deeper truth. Recognizing fake friends is not just about avoiding hurt, it's about clearing the emotional space you need in order to grow. Most people underestimate the influence of their environment. They think a friend is just a friend, a person in the background, someone who comes along for parts of their journey. But psychology shows that the people closest to you quietly shape everything about you, your habits, your beliefs, your emotional state, and even the way you speak to yourself. When those people carry negativity, jealousy, inconsistency, or hidden motives, they don't just affect your mood, they affect your direction. Think about how much energy you give away every day. You give pieces of yourself through your support, your patience, your kindness, your loyalty, and when that energy is given to the wrong people, it doesn't come back. It evaporates, it drains you, it makes you question yourself. And once you start questioning yourself, your growth slows down, your confidence weakens, your dreams feel heavier, suddenly you're carrying two weights, the weight of your own challenges and the weight of their emotional burden. Growth requires clarity, but fake friendships create confusion. Growth requires courage, but fake friendships plant doubt. Growth requires emotional safety, but fake friendships use your openness as weakness. When you don't recognize these dynamics, you end up walking through life silently exhausted, wondering why your motivation disappears without explanation. You wonder why you feel stuck. You wonder why progress feels harder for you than it should. But the truth is simple. You cannot grow in an environment that drains you. You were never meant to shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. You were never meant to dim your light so someone who feels threatened could feel bigger. And you were never meant to carry people who secretly hoped you would fail just enough to keep them comfortable. One of the most dangerous things about fake friendships is that they blur the line between support and sabotage. They slow you down just enough that you don't notice the damage until you look back and realize how much further you could have been without their energy in your life. And the saddest part is that this often happens quietly, without arguments, without dramatic moments, without obvious betrayal. It happens through emotional friction. Through their silence when you succeed, through their distance when you need help, through their small, subtle comments that make you doubt your own abilities. This is why recognizing fake friends is essential, not optional, for personal growth. When you understand someone's true role in your life, you stop overestimating their value. You stop giving them access to the parts of you they have never earned. You stop allowing their emotional inconsistency to damage your self-worth. You begin to reclaim your power, and when you reclaim your power, everything begins to change. Your decisions become sharper, your circle becomes healthier, your emotional strength returns, your goals become clearer, and most importantly, you stop wasting time on relationships that were never meant to grow with you. There is a psychological principle called emotional alignment. It simply means this: the people you surround yourself with either help you rise or quietly keep you stuck at the same level. People who do not want to see you grow will never allow themselves to genuinely support you. They may smile, but the smile is thin. They may encourage you, but the words carry no depth. They may act like they're by your side, but they disappear the moment you need something real. Your growth exposes their insecurity. Your progress exposes their jealousy. Your confidence exposes their fear of falling behind. And instead of rising with you, they try to tether you to their comfort zone. Many people stay trapped in these relationships because they fear loneliness. But here's the truth that psychology and life both agree on. Being alone while growing is far healthier than being surrounded while sinking. Loneliness heals. Negative relationships destroy. And when you choose yourself fully, bravely, unapologetically, real people begin to enter your life. Genuine connections form. Inconsistency shows up through delayed replies when the message carries weight, but instant responses when the conversation benefits them. It shows up when they celebrate your victories only after others have done so, because they don't want to seem unsupportive. But they also don't want to be the first to cheer. It shows up when they seek you out during their loneliness, but vanish when you need even a fraction of the support you gave them. Real friendship is mutual. Fake friendship is transactional. And here is the psychological core. People who are inconsistent with you are consistent with their priorities. Their loyalty is never missing. It's simply directed somewhere else. Their lack of presence isn't because they forget. It's because you are not their emotional priority. And deep down, you already know that. You can feel the imbalance. You can feel the emotional gap. You can feel when someone's loyalty is only convenient, not genuine. This inconsistency slowly affects your self-worth. You begin to wonder whether you're asking for too much, when in reality you're asking for the bare minimum, presence. You start to question your value because someone else can't recognize it. But their inconsistency is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their emotional immaturity. The most painful part of dealing with inconsistent people is that they often return with just enough warmth to confuse you. They give you small doses of affection, small gestures of care, just enough to keep you from walking away, but not enough to make the friendship real. This emotional drip feeding is one of the strongest psychological markers of a fake friend. They keep you emotionally invested while giving nothing consistent in return. And here's the truth you must accept. If someone's loyalty fluctuates with their mood, their convenience, or their personal benefit, they are not walking with you, they are walking near you. And walking near you is not the same as walking with you. Real friends show up, real friends stay, real friends don't measure their loyalty according to what they gain. Your growth demands a circle that is dependable, not unpredictable. Inconsistency creates emotional instability, and emotional instability keeps you stuck. How can you move forward when you're constantly trying to interpret someone's shifting behavior? How can you focus on your goals when you're unsure whether someone in your circle is genuinely supportive or silently competitive? How can you love yourself when you surround yourself with people who make you feel optional? You deserve stability. You deserve people who show up even on the days when showing up is inconvenient. You deserve people who treat your presence like a blessing, not a backup plan. And once you recognize inconsistency as a behavioral pattern, something incredible happens. You stop chasing people. You stop explaining yourself. You stop lowering your standards. You stop giving priority to people who treat you like an afterthought. Instead, you begin to choose peace over confusion, clarity over chaos, growth over attachment, respect over imbalance. And as you step away from people who cannot offer consistent loyalty, you create room in your life for those who can. You create room for genuine friendships that uplift you, ground you, and remind you of your worth. Because the truth is simple. A person who is loyal only sometimes is not loyal at all. Consistency is not a luxury in friendship, it is the foundation. And the moment you stop accepting inconsistency, your relationships transform, your mind becomes lighter, and your path becomes clear. Once you begin to recognize inconsistency for what it truly is, a quiet form of emotional neglect, you start to see how deeply it affects your inner world. It's not just that fake friends disappear when you need them. It's not only their lack of presence or their selective support. The real damage happens inside you, slowly, silently, and often without you realizing it. Inconsistency does not just create disappointment, it creates emotional instability. It forces your heart and mind into a cycle of uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most exhausting states a human being can live in. You find yourself constantly guessing, constantly questioning, constantly adjusting your expectations, hoping that this time they will show up differently, only to find the same unpredictable behavior repeating again and again. And the worst part, you begin to blame yourself for someone else's emotional unreliability. Psychology shows that when people around you are inconsistent, your brain enters a defensive mode. You start searching for patterns, creating explanations, softening their behavior in your mind so you don't have to face the painful truth. You may tell yourself, they're just busy, they're going through something, they didn't mean it like that, they care, they just don't show it well. But every one of these excuses costs you something, your peace. When someone is inconsistent with their loyalty, you're left in a state of emotional limbo. You never know where you stand. You don't feel secure enough to fully trust, yet you don't feel hurt enough to completely walk away. This middle ground becomes an emotional prison, a place where you never receive enough to feel valued but always receive enough to stay hopeful. This kind of emotional tension creates self-doubt. You start to wonder if your expectations are unreasonable. You start questioning if you're too sensitive or too demanding. You begin to lower your standards just to maintain the illusion of harmony. But this is how inconsistency works. It slowly convinces you to accept less than you deserve. People often talk about heartbreak, betrayal, and conflict as the sources of emotional pain. But inconsistency is more subtle. It chips away at your sense of worth piece by piece. It convinces you that you're asking for too much when all you're really asking for is stability. It makes you think you're not deserving of consistent support, even though consistency is the foundation of every healthy relationship. And here's the deep psychological truth. When someone is inconsistent with you, your nervous system never relaxes around them. Your body stays on alert, your emotions stay guarded, your heart stays halfway open. Fake friends don't just waste your time, they drain your emotional energy and leave you spiritually tired. Think about how it feels when they show up suddenly with warmth after a long period of silence. You feel relief, you feel reconnected, you feel seen again, but that relief is temporary because you already know, deep inside, that they will disappear again. This cycle creates emotional whiplash, a constant back and forth, that steals your inner harmony. And because the moments of warmth feel good, you hold on to them, hoping they're a sign of change. But they're not. They're a sign of emotional inconsistency. And inconsistency is not love, not loyalty, not friendship, it's confusion. Every time you allow inconsistent people to remain in your life, you teach your mind to tolerate unpredictability. You teach your heart to accept crumbs. You teach your soul to expect disappointment. And over time, this shapes your beliefs about what you think you deserve. You begin to shrink your needs. You begin to silence your feelings. You begin to walk on emotional eggshells, afraid that expressing your truth might push them further away. But here is the real revelation. If your truth pushes someone away, they were never truly with you. The emotional impact of inconsistency is profound because it creates a distorted sense of self-worth. It makes you forget your value. It makes you believe that loyalty is something you must earn instead of something you naturally deserve. It makes you attach your worth to someone's unpredictable behavior. But you were never meant to live like that. Your emotions deserve safety. Your heart deserves steadiness. Your soul deserves people who don't leave you guessing. When you finally see the psychological damage inconsistent people cause, you stop craving their presence. You stop waiting for them to change. You stop romanticizing the good moments and start seeing the full picture. And the full picture is this. Inconsistency is a red flag, not a personality trait. It is not something you should adjust to. It is something you should walk away from because the moment you release the emotional weight of inconsistent people, clarity floods back into your life. You rediscover your strength. You rediscover your self-worth. And for the first time in a long time, you feel peace. Not the temporary peace they offer, but the lasting peace that comes from choosing yourself. You deserve connections that don't confuse you. You deserve relationships that honor your heart. You deserve loyalty that doesn't fluctuate with convenience. Never forget this. Consistency is respect in action, and respect is the foundation of every relationship that nurtures your growth. When inconsistency has already chipped away at your peace, the second behavior becomes easier to see because it lives in the shadows created by the first. Once you've felt the emotional instability of unreliable people, you begin to notice the deeper reason behind their inconsistency. And psychology reveals it clearly. Many fake friends are inconsistent not because they don't care, but because they cannot handle your growth. Hidden jealousy, silent competition, unspoken resentment. These are the emotions they'll never admit, yet always express through behavior. Unlike open jealousy, which is easy to spot, subtle jealousy hides behind polite smiles and half-hearted compliments. It hides behind support that feels thin. It hides behind encouragement that feels rehearsed. Fake friends don't want to appear jealous, so they become competitive in ways that leave you confused, guilty, or unsure of yourself. It often begins with small things. You share good news, something you worked hard for, and instead of pure joy, they pause just a little too long. Their smile appears, but their eyes don't match it. Their words sound right, but their tone doesn't. They might say, "That's great," but you can feel the weight behind it. The heaviness of someone who wishes your win was smaller or slower. Psychology calls this micro-competition. It's when someone sees your progress not as inspiration, but as a threat. And because they fear losing their sense of superiority or control, they subtly push back. You'll notice it in conversations. You celebrate something meaningful and suddenly they redirect the topic towards something about themselves. You share your goals and they respond with a story about how they've done something similar, but better. You mention an achievement, and they minimize it with a quiet, seemingly harmless comment. These behaviors may not seem aggressive. They may even feel normal to someone who has been surrounded by subtle competition for years. But they carry a psychological message you should never ignore. They are uncomfortable with your rise, and when someone can't celebrate your growth, they will eventually become an obstacle to it. Notice the moments when your success creates distance between you. Suddenly, they become colder, shorter, less available. Their inconsistency increases because jealousy magnifies insecurity. They pull away because being close to you reminds them of everything they feel they lack. And instead of working on themselves, they choose to silently compete with you. This silent competition doesn't always show up through negativity. It often appears through imitation. You share a dream and suddenly they adopt the same one. You change something in your life, and they copy it soon after. They don't do it to grow, not truly. They do it to keep up with you. They do it to avoid feeling behind. But friendship is not a race. Your life is not a scoreboard. Your progress is not an insult to someone else's. Healthy friends grow with you. Fake friends grow against you. Hidden jealousy is one of the clearest signs of a fake friend because real friends carry a natural emotional reflex. They are happy when you win. Not because they benefit, but because they believe you deserve it. They don't compare. They don't compete. They don't measure your success next to their own. Jealous people, however, compare constantly. Even when they hide it behind kind words, their body language betrays them. Their silence grows louder. Their behavior becomes cooler. Their presence becomes conditional. And here's the psychological impact. Being around subtle jealousy forces you to shrink yourself. You begin sharing less to avoid making them uncomfortable. You hold back your achievements to protect their ego. You mute your excitement because you don't want to make them feel inferior. But the moment you start hiding your light for someone else's comfort, you are no longer growing. You are surviving. This kind of friendship limits you quietly. It doesn't break you in dramatic ways. It slowly convinces you that your growth should be small. It creates guilt around your ambition. It makes you apologize for your accomplishments. And guilt is a powerful anchor. It keeps you in places you've outgrown. Realize this. A friend who is jealous of you is not a friend. They are a competitor using the disguise of closeness. It is not your responsibility to shrink so someone else can feel tall. It is not your responsibility to lower your speed so someone else can keep up. It is not your responsibility to hide your blessings so someone else doesn't feel insecure. Your journey is your own. Your success is your own. And the people meant for your life will never feel threatened by your growth. When you identify hidden jealousy, you free yourself from a relationship that would have quietly held you back for years. You reclaim your confidence, your voice, and your right to grow without apology. Because nothing is more dangerous than a friend who smiles at you while competing with you in silence. Recognize this behavior for what it is. Protect your spirit from those who cannot handle your shine. And remember, your greatness was never meant to be dimmed to comfort someone who secretly fears your light. Once you recognize the signs of subtle competition and hidden jealousy, the next thing that becomes clear is the quiet damage these emotions cause inside you. Jealousy doesn't just affect the person who feels it, it affects the person receiving it, often in ways that stick to the mind long after the relationship fades. And the most painful part is that this damage happens silently. It doesn't break you in one moment, it weakens you over time, changing how you show up in your own life. Hidden jealousy creates an emotional environment where your growth becomes uncomfortable, not because you doubt your path, but because someone close to you cannot handle your rise. And when someone you trust responds negatively to your progress, it plants seeds of hesitation in your heart. You begin second-guessing your own achievements. You question whether you should be proud of yourself. You wonder which parts of your life you should keep hidden, simply to avoid making someone else feel small. That is the first way jealousy limits your potential. It makes you shrink yourself. Instead of celebrating your wins, you downplay them. Instead of pushing forward boldly, you take careful steps. Instead of sharing your dreams with confidence, you filter your excitement to protect someone else's ego. But your dreams are not meant to be filtered. Your growth is not meant to be softened. Your light is not meant to be dimmed. Every time you adjust your personality to avoid triggering someone's insecurity, you lose a piece of your authenticity. And authenticity is the foundation of true confidence. When you hide who you are, you begin to doubt who you are. That doubt quietly lowers your self-esteem, and low self-esteem limits your potential more than any obstacle in the outside world. Another way hidden jealousy holds you back is through emotional tension. When you sense that someone close to you feels threatened by your growth, you start walking on psychological eggshells. You become careful with your words, careful with your wins, careful with how much joy you express. This emotional restriction drains you. It takes energy to shrink yourself. It takes strength to hide your excitement, and that energy could have been used to grow, to improve, to rise higher, but instead, it gets trapped in managing someone else's insecurity. And here is a truth many people avoid. When you stay connected to people who are secretly jealous of you, you begin to sabotage your own progress just to maintain emotional peace. Psychology calls this self-limiting behavior. You start taking smaller steps, avoiding new opportunities, and slowing your own journey, not because you lack ambition, but because you want to avoid discomfort in your relationships. This is one of the deepest ways jealousy suppresses your potential. Hidden jealousy also affects how you see your future. When someone belittles your dreams, minimizes your achievements, or reacts coldly to your growth, it makes your goals feel less possible, even when they are absolutely achievable. Doubt spreads quickly when it comes from someone you trust. You begin to question whether you're dreaming too big, moving too fast, or hoping for too much. This internal conflict, your desire to rise and your fear of outgrowing people, creates emotional paralysis. You stay stuck between who you are and who you could be, and this is where jealousy becomes most dangerous. It makes you feel guilty for growing. You feel guilty when you take a step ahead, guilty when something good happens, guilty when life moves forward for you faster than it does for someone else. But guilt has no place in success. Guilt has no place in growth. Guilt has no place in becoming the best version of yourself. You were not born to remain small, so others can feel comfortable. You were born to evolve, expand, and rise without apology. Another major limitation caused by hidden jealousy is isolation. When someone resents your growth, they slowly pull away from you. They stop showing interest. They stop celebrating you. They stop supporting your ambition. Their emotional distance makes you feel alone in your journey, and loneliness can trick you into thinking your dreams are too heavy to carry, even when they're not. It creates the illusion that you're walking alone, even when countless blessings and opportunities are waiting for you ahead. But the most powerful truth of all is this: your potential is never limited by your abilities. It is limited by the environment you grow in. A plant can be strong, healthy, and full of life, but if it is placed in soil that cannot support it, it will wither. Not because it lacks strength, but because it was surrounded by the wrong environment. You are no different. When your circle is filled with silent jealousy, you become the plant trying to grow in dry soil. But the moment you place yourself in the right environment, in supportive relationships, empowering friendships, and uplifting energy, you begin to grow effortlessly, naturally, and faster than you ever imagined. Remember this with conviction. Your growth is not the problem. Your success is not the problem. Your ambition is not the problem. The problem is keeping people close who cannot emotionally survive your rise. When you free yourself from jealous relationships, you remove the psychological barriers blocking your potential. You reclaim your confidence. You remember your worth, and you finally give yourself permission to grow without limits. Because you were never meant to dim your light. You were meant to shine. And the world needs the version of you that does not fear its own greatness. There is a moment in every person's life when they look around and ask a simple but life-changing question: who is actually walking with me and who is only standing near me? The more you grow, the more you realize that the line between those two groups becomes clearer, sharper, and sometimes painfully honest. That's the nature of growth. It doesn't only elevate you, it exposes everything that cannot grow with you. And one of the biggest things growth exposes is the truth about the people you once called friends. Because genuine friendships are not fragile. They don't break when you evolve, they don't dissolve when you choose a better life. But fake friendships, they crumble the moment you step out of the version of yourself that served them. And this is where the second behavior emerges with frightening clarity. Fake friends show resistance when your self-respect rises. It starts quietly. You set a boundary. Not a dramatic one, not an angry one, just a simple expression of your worth. a limit, a no, a standard you finally choose to honor, and suddenly the energy shifts. You see discomfort on their face, you feel irritation in their tone, you notice how your self-respect makes them feel smaller, not because it hurts them, but because it stops them from using you. Every time you choose yourself, they feel like they're losing control. Psychology has a very clear name for this reaction: threatened ego response. People who secretly depend on your self-neglect, your tendency to give too much, forgive too fast, and tolerate too long, get triggered when you stop being available on their terms. Fake friends don't fear losing you, they fear losing the version of you that made life easier for them. And this is the moment when truth becomes unavoidable. You start seeing things you always ignored. You notice their sudden distance, their coldness, their subtle sarcasm. You notice how your growth didn't push them to grow, it pushed them to withdraw. Not because you changed, but because your change exposed their intentions. Fake friends want you humble but not strong. They want you kind but not confident. They want you giving but not aware. As soon as you become aware, you stop being easy to manipulate. And awareness is a threat to people who never plan to treat you fairly. This is why boundaries don't destroy real friendships. They reveal fake ones. Real friends celebrate your strength. They admire your clarity. They respect your no because they respect you. They don't get scared when you grow. They get inspired. They don't compete with you. They compete for you. They want to stay in your life, not control your place in theirs. And that difference alone separates love from convenience. When a fake friend reacts negatively to your boundaries, it says everything about their role in your life. They weren't there for your happiness, they were there for your usefulness. They weren't connected to your soul, they were connected to your silence. And the moment you find your voice, the connection breaks. But here's the part many people don't realize. Your self-respect is not just a boundary. It's a filter. A natural filter that removes people who were never meant to stay. When someone leaves because you finally honored yourself, that is not a loss, that is alignment. That is clarity. That is protection. The universe is not taking people away from you. It is showing you who never belonged in the first place. And yes, this hurts. Because losing someone you trusted always hurts. It doesn't matter whether they were fake. You still invested your time, your energy, your presence, your loyalty. You still hoped they were genuine. You still believed they cared. So when their true colors appear, the pain isn't just about them. It's about the version of you that once thought they deserved a place in your life. But the pain itself is meaningful. It is not a punishment, it is a revelation, a reminder of how far you've come, a sign that you are finally learning the most important emotional truth: self-respect is more valuable than any relationship. Because any relationship that cannot survive your self-respect is not a relationship, it is an attachment built on imbalance. The moment you understand this, your whole perspective changes. You stop chasing people. You stop forcing connections. You stop apologizing for valuing yourself. And something powerful happens inside you: peace. A deeper peace than you've ever felt. Because peace doesn't come from having many people around you. It comes from having the right people around you. And these two behaviors, their silence in your struggles and their resistance when you rise, are the clearest signs of who they really are. These signs are not there to break you. They are there to free you. And freedom begins with truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Your journey isn't about keeping everyone. It's about discovering who is worthy of walking beside your growth, your strength, and your future. And once you know the signs, you will never unsee them. Every choice you make in life carries a consequence, and one of the most powerful choices you will ever make is the people you allow close to you. Your circle is more than just a group of friends. It is the reflection of your energy, your values, and your potential. And psychology is clear. The people you surround yourself with shape not only your daily emotions,